For most people, alcohol feels like a modern thing. A drink after work, a bottle at a party, a tradition passed down through cultures. But the story of alcohol began long before bars, breweries, or even civilization itself. In fact, it began before humans. Millions of years ago, deep inside African forests, fallen fruit would sit on the ground for days. As the fruit aged, something unusual happened. Natural yeasts began feeding on the sugars inside it. Fermentation started. Tiny amounts of alcohol appeared. And somewhere among the branches, an ancient primate discovered that those fruits felt different. Not dangerous, not unpleasant, different. And that small discovery may have changed the course of history. Scientists today believe our ancestors didn't simply tolerate alcohol. They evolved alongside it. Generation after generation, individuals that could detect fermented fruit gained an advantage. Fermented fruit often contained more calories. It was easier to smell, easier to find. Over time, attraction to alcohol became part of the biology we inherited. Long before anyone learned how to brew, long before anyone planted a field. The desire was already there. The real mystery is what happened next. At some point, humans stopped finding alcohol and started making it. Around 13,000 years ago, a group known as the Natufians gathered inside a cave in what is now Israel. They were not farmers. They had no fields, no villages, no agriculture. Yet, archaeologists discovered something unexpected. Stone basins containing traces of fermented grain. Evidence that people were brewing alcohol thousands of years before farming became common. Think about what that means. For decades, historians imagined the sequence like this. First came agriculture, then villages, then civilization. And somewhere later, alcohol. But discoveries like this suggest a very different possibility. Maybe alcohol arrived first. Maybe people valued it enough to experiment with grain before they ever learned to grow it. And the evidence does not stop there. At Gobekli Tepe in modern Turkey, hunter-gatherers built enormous stone monuments long before permanent settlements existed. Massive pillars weighing several tons were carved and arranged with remarkable precision. For years, nobody understood why. Why would mobile groups invest so much effort into a place they didn't live in? Then researchers found large stone vats and traces of fermented grain. People weren't just gathering there. They were drinking together, sharing rituals, sharing stories, perhaps building communities around a common experience, which leads to one of the most controversial ideas in archaeology. What if humans did not begin farming because they wanted more bread? What if they began farming because they wanted more beer? The idea sounds absurd until you look at the evidence. Bread requires grinding, kneading, and baking. Fermentation often happens almost by itself. Leave grain and water together long enough, and nature does much of the work. If ancient people already valued alcohol, securing a reliable supply would have been a powerful incentive. And if that's true, then alcohol was not a side effect of civilization. It may have helped create civilization itself. By 7000 BCE, people in China were already producing complex fermented drinks using rice, honey, fruit, and berries. This wasn't an accident. It was a recipe, knowledge passed between generations, a craft, a tradition.
And as civilizations grew, alcohol grew with them. In ancient Egypt, beer became part of everyday life. Workers received it as payment. Families consumed it daily. Priests used it in rituals. Doctors mixed medicine into it. One drink served as food, income, medicine, and religion all at once. When you step back and look at the timeline, a strange pattern appears. Millions of years ago, our ancestors searched for fermented fruit. Thousands of years ago, they learned to brew.
Soon after, they gathered around shared drinks, built monuments, created traditions, and perhaps even transformed the way humans lived. Alcohol did not appear after civilization. There is a real possibility that civilization grew alongside alcohol from the very beginning. The ingredients changed, the containers changed, the methods became more sophisticated, but the impulse remained the same. A curiosity that began with overripe fruit on a forest floor millions of years ago and continues every time someone raises a glass today.